The Radio Memories Network is brought to you in part by Liberated Syndication, podcast publishing made easy, libsyn.com. That's libsyn.com.
Experiencing the plays, great performances, and compelling stories each week from the archives of great productions of Hollywood's best producers and actors. We now go back to the early days of radio and our imaginations with our featured drama presentation.
Paradise Lost by John Milton. Dramatized by Michael Simmons Roberts. Part 2.
The banished one is back, for good and all.
Very well, John. Your muse has gifted you again. It had better be worth it. I have never seen you so beset with terrors of the night.
I wish I had some different words to give. They choke me.
So cough them up. Better captured on my page than raging in your throat.
Yes.
We had left our first parents asleep in their bower.
Warned by an angel about a certain visitor.
Yes, asleep in their bower.
My page is blank, John.
When Satan, who late fled before the threats of Gabriel, out of Eden, now improved in meditated fraud and malice, bent on man's destruction, maugre what might hap of heavier on himself, fearless returned.
Not exactly fled, more driven by the crazed, obsessive zeal of my opponents, withdrawn to heal my wounds and come again.
Thus the orb he roamed with narrow search, and with inspection deep considered every creature, which of all most opportune might serve his wiles, and found.
You know the form I took. One look at this sleek salamandrine letter S, this subterfuge, this suckest of ground sliders, grass dividers, pool gliders, and I was sold. This creature makes the perfect uninvited guest.
The serpent, subtlest beast of all the field, fit vessel, fittest imp of fraud, in whom he entered, and his dark suggestions hid from sharpest sight. For in the wily snake, whatever slights none would suspicious mark, as from his wit and native subtlety proceeding, which in other beasts observed, doubt might beget of diabolic power, active within beyond the sense of brute.
Our poor parents, so innocent, so unprepared for guile and guise.
The Maker gave them minds and hands and eyes, an angel to warn them of the devil's lies.
But they knew only good.
Poor fools. I don't mean Eve and Adam. I mean this sad sum of suffering and fortitude. Him, blind, beleaguered, twice bereaved of wives, 4 times of children, trying to explain to himself as much as anyone how the world has grown so dark.
My dear, quicken your pen. My muse has sent me back into that garden.
She, your muse, will be the death of me. Go on.
And her, Elizabeth, his last companion, salve against death, helpmate and amanuensis, sits as he dictates the journey of the one he hates, me, hunting my disguise.
Through each thicket, dank or dry, like a black mist low creeping, he held on his midnight search, where soonest he might find the serpent. Him fast sleeping soon he found, in labyrinths of many a round self-rolled, his head the midst, well stored with subtle wiles. Not yet in horrid shade or dismal den, not nascent yet, but on the grassy herb, fearless, unfeared, he slept. In at his mouth the devil entered.
So I did.
And his brutal sense, in heart or head possessing, soon inspired with act intelligential. But his sleep disturbed not, waiting close the approach of morn. Now when as sacred light began to dawn in Eden on the humid flowers, that breathed their morning incense, when all things that breathe from the earth's great altar send up silent praise to the Creator, and his nostrils fill with grateful smell, forth came the human pair, and joined their vocal worship to the choir of creatures wanting voice. That done, partake the season, prime for sweetest scents and airs. Then commune how that day they best may ply their growing work, for much their work outgrew the hand's dispatch of two gardening so wide, and Eve, first to her husband, thus began.
Adam, well may we labour still to dress this garden, still to tend plant, herb and flower. Our pleasant task enjoined, but till more hands aid us, the work under our labour grows, luxurious by restraint. What we by day lop overgrown, or prune, or prop, or bind, one night or two with wanton growth derides tending to wild. Thou, therefore, now advise, or hear what to my mind first thoughts present.
Very well.
Let us divide our labours. Thou, where choice leads thee, or where most needs, whether to wind the woodbine round this arbour, or direct the clasping ivy where to climb, while I, in yonder spring of roses, intermixed with myrtle, find what to redress till noon. For while so near each other, thus all day, our task we choose, what wonder if so near looks intervene and smiles, or object new, casual discourse draw on?
Soul Eve, associate soul, to me beyond compare above and living creatures dear. These paths and bowers doubt not, but our joint hands will keep from wilderness with ease, as wide as we need walk, till younger hands ere long assist us. But if much converse perhaps thee satiate, to short absence I could yield, for solitude sometimes is best society, and short retirement urges sweet return.
Revenge, at first though sweet, bitter ere long, back on itself recoils. Let it. I reck not, so it light well aimed, since higher I fall short, on him who next provokes my envy, this new favourite of heaven, this man of clay, son of despite, whom us the more to spite his maker raised from dust. Spite, then, with spite, is best repaid.
But other doubt possesses me, lest harm befall thee severed from me. For thou know'st what hath been warned us, what malicious foe envying our happiness, and of his own despairing, and to work us woe and shame by sly assault, and somewhere nigh at hand watches, no doubt, with greedy hope, to find his wish and best advantage, us asunder, hopeless to circumvent us joined, where each to other speedy aid might lend at need.
Ah, the angel's warning bites, but I can wait, until from this her man she parts.
The wife, where danger or dishonour lurks, safest and seemliest by her husband stays, who guards her.
That thou shouldst my firmness therefore doubt to God or thee, because we have a foe may tempt it, I expected not to hear. But this be our condition, thus to dwell in narrow circuit, straitened by a foe, subtle or violent, we not endued single with light defence, wherever met. How are we happy, still in fear of harm? Let us not then suspect our happy state, left so imperfect by the Maker wise, as not secure to single or combined. Frail is our happiness if this be so, and Eden were no Eden thus exposed.
Go, but thy stay not free absence thee more. Go in thy native innocence. Rely on what thou hast of virtue, summon all. For God towards thee hath done his part, do thine.
With thy permission, then, and thus forewarned, I go.
Thus saying, from her husband's hand, her hand soft she withdrew, and like a wood nymph light, Oread or Dryad, or of Delia's train, betook her to the groves.
I sought them both, but wished my hap might find Eve separate. I wished, but not with hope of what so seldom chanced, when to my wish, beyond my hope, Eve separate I spied.
So spake the enemy of mankind, enclosed in serpent, inmate bad, and toward Eve addressed his way, not with indented wave prone on the ground as since, but on his rear, circular base of rising folds that towered, fold above fold, a surging maze, his head crested aloft, and carbuncle his eyes. With burnished neck of verdant gold, erect amidst his circling spires that on the grass floated redundant. Pleasing was his shape and lovely, with tract oblique at first, as one who sought access, but feared to interrupt, sidelong he works his way, as when a ship by skilful steersman wrought nigh river's mouth or foreland, where the wind veers oft, as oft so steers and shifts her sail, so varied he, and of his tortuous train curled many a wanton wreath in sight of Eve to lure her eye. She busied heard the sound of rustling leaves, but minded not, as used to such disport before her through the field, from every beast. He, bolder now, uncalled before her stood, but as in gaze admiring, oft he bowed his turret crest and sleek enamelled neck, fawning, and licked the ground whereon she trod. His fraudulent temptation thus began.
Fairest resemblance of thy Maker, fair, thee all things living gaze on, all things thine by gift, and thy celestial beauty adore with ravishment beheld, their best beheld where universally admired. But here, in this enclosure wild, these beasts among, beholders rude, and shallow to discern half what in thee is fair, one man except, who sees thee? And what is one? Who shouldst be seen a goddess among gods, adored and served by angels numberless.
What may this mean? Language of man pronounced by tongue of brute, and human sense expressed. Thee, serpent, subtlest beast of all the field I knew, but not with human voice endued. Redouble then this miracle, and say, how camest thou speakable of mute? And how to me so friendly grown above the rest of brutal kind that daily are in sight?
I was at first, as other beasts that graze the trodden herb, of abject thoughts and low, as was my food, nor aught but food discerned or sex, and apprehended nothing high, till on a day, roving the field, I chanced a goodly tree, far distant to behold, loaden with fruit of fairest colours mixed, ruddy and gold. I nearer drew to gaze, when from the boughs a savoury odour blown, grateful to appetite, more pleased my sense than smell of sweetest fennel, or the teats of ewe or goat dropping with milk at even. To satisfy the sharp desire I had of tasting those fair apples, I resolved not to defer. Hunger and thirst, at once powerful persuaders, quickened at the scent of that alluring fruit, urged me so keen. About the mossy trunk I wound me soon, where plenty hung tempting so nigh, to pluck and eat my fill. I spared not, for such pleasure, till that hour at feed or fountain never had I found. Sated at length, ere long I might perceive strange alteration in me, to degree of reason in my inward powers, and speech wanted not long, though to this shape retain. Thenceforth to speculations high or deep I turned my thoughts, and with capacious mind considered all things visible in heaven or earth or middle, all things fair and good. But all that fair and good in thy divine semblance, and in thy beauty's heavenly ray united I beheld. No fair to thine equivalent or second, which compelled me thus, though importune perhaps, to come and gaze and worship thee, of right declared sovereign of creatures, universal dame.
Serpent, thy overpraising leaves in doubt the virtue of that fruit in thee first proved. But say, where grows the tree? From hence how far?
Empress, the way is ready, and not long, beyond a row of myrtles on a flat fast by a fountain, one small thicket past of blowing myrrh and balm. If thou accept my conduct, I can bring thee thither soon.
Oh, Lee, then,
said Eve. He, leading swiftly, rolled in tangles, and made intricate seem straight to mischief swift, and into fraud led Eve, our credulous mother, to the tree of prohibition, root of all our woe, which when she saw, thus to her guide she spake.
Serpent, we might have spared our coming hither, fruitless to me, though fruit be here to excess, the credit of whose virtue rests with thee, wondrous indeed, if cause of such effects. But of this tree we may not taste nor touch. God so commanded, and left that command sole daughter of his voice. The rest we live law to ourselves. Our reason is our law.
Indeed? Hath God then said that of the fruit of all these garden trees ye shall not eat? Yet lords declared of all in earth or air.
Of the fruit of each tree in the garden we may eat, but of the fruit of this fair tree amidst the garden, God hath said, ye shall not eat thereof, nor shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
Queen of this universe, do not believe those rigid threats of death. Ye shall not die. How should ye? By the fruit? It gives you life to knowledge. By the threatener? Look on me. Me who have touched and tasted, yet both live, and life more perfect have attained than fate meant me by venturing higher than my lot. Shall that be shut to man, which to the beast is open? Or will God incense his ire for such a petty trespass, and not praise rather your dauntless virtue, whom the pain of death denounced, whatever thing death be, deterred not from achieving what might lead to happier life, knowledge of good and evil? Of good, how just? Of evil, if what is evil be real, why not known, since easier shunned?
No, no.
God, therefore, cannot hurt ye, and be just. Not just, not God, not feared then nor obeyed. Your fear itself of death removes the fear. Why then was this forbid? Why but to awe? Why but to keep ye low and ignorant, his worshippers? He knows that in the day ye eat thereof, your eyes that seem so clear, yet are but dim, shall perfectly be then opened and cleared, and ye shall be as gods, knowing both good and evil as they know. Goddess humane, reach then, and freely taste.
He ended, and his words, replete with guile, into her heart too easy entrance won. Fixed on the fruit she gazed, which to behold might tempt alone, and in her ears the sound yet rung of his persuasive words, impregned with reason to her seeming, and with truth. Meanwhile the hour of noon drew on, and waked an eager appetite, raised by the smell so savoury of that fruit, which with desire inclinable now, grown to touch or taste, solicited her longing eye.
How dies the serpent? He hath eaten, and lives, and knows, and speaks, and reasons, and discerns. What fear I then? Rather, what know to fear under this ignorance of good and evil, of God or death, of law or penalty? Here grows the cure of all, this fruit divine, fair to the eye, inviting to the taste, of virtue to make wise. What hinders then to reach and feed at once both body and mind?
Back to the thicket slunk the guilty serpent.
Experience. Next to thee I owe best guide. Not following thee, I had remained in ignorance. Thou openst wisdom's way and givest access.
Earth felt the wound, and nature from her seat, sighing through all her works, gave signs of woe, that all was lost.
Adam shall share with me in bliss or woe, so dear I love him, that with him all deaths I could endure. Without him, live no life.
Adam, the while waiting desirous her return, had wove of choicest flowers a garland to adorn her tresses, and her rural labours crown, as reapers oft are wont, their harvest queen. Great joy he promised to his thoughts, and new solace in her return, so long delayed. Yet oft his heart, divine of something ill, misgave him. He the faltering measure felt, and forth to meet her went, the way she took that morn when first they parted. By the tree of knowledge he must pass. There he her met. Scarce from the tree returning, in her hand a bough of fairest fruit, that downy smiled, new gathered, and ambrosial smell diffused.
Hast thou not wondered, Adam, at my stay? Thee I have missed and thought it long. This tree is not, as we are told, a tree of danger tasted, nor to evil unknown opening the way, but of divine effect, to open eyes, and make them gods who taste, and hath been tasted such. The serpent, wise, or not restrained as we, or not obeying, hath eaten of the fruit, and is become not dead, as we are threatened, but thenceforth endued with human voice and human sense, reasoning to admiration, and with me persuasively hath so prevailed that I have also tasted.
No.
Yes, I have also tasted, and have also found the effects to correspond. Opener mine eyes, dim erst, dilated spirits, ampler heart. Thou therefore also taste, that equal lot may join us, equal joy as equal love.
How art thou lost? How on a sudden, lost, defaced, deflowered, and now to death devote? Rather, how hast thou yielded to transgress the strict forbiddance? How to violate the sacred fruit forbidden? Some cursed fraud of enemy hath beguiled thee, yet unknown, and me with thee hath ruined. For with thee, certain my resolution is to die. How can I live without thee? Flesh of flesh, bone of my bone thou art, and from thy state mine never shall be parted. Bliss or woe.
Adam, from whose dear side I boast me sprung, and gladly of our union hear thee speak, one heart, one soul in both, whereof good proof this day affords, declaring thee resolved, rather than death, or aught than death more dread shall separate us, linked in love so dear, to undergo with me one guilt, one crime, if any be, of tasting this fair fruit, whose virtue, for of good still good proceeds, direct or by occasion hath presented this happy trial of thy love, which else so eminently never had been known.
I with thee have fixed my lot, certain to undergo like doom. If death consort with thee, death is to me as life. So forcible within my heart I feel the bond of nature draw me to my own. One flesh. To lose thee, to lose myself.
Not death, but life augmented, opened eyes, new hopes, new joys, taste so divine, that what of sweet before hath touched my sense, flat seems to this, and harsh. On my experience, Adam, freely taste, and fear of death deliver to the winds.
So saying, she embraced him, and for joy tenderly wept, much won that he his love had so ennobled, as of choice to incur divine displeasure for her sake, or death. she gave him of that fair enticing fruit with liberal hand. He scrupled not to eat against his better knowledge, not deceived, but fondly overcome with female charm. As with new wine intoxicated both, they swim in mirth, and fancy that they feel divinity within them, breeding wings wherewith to scorn the earth. But that false fruit far other operation first displayed. Carnal desire inflaming, he on Eve began to cast lascivious eyes, she him as wantonly repaid. In lust they burn, till Adam thus 'gan Eve to dalliance move.
Much pleasure we have lost, while we abstained from this delightful fruit, nor known till now true relish. Tasting, if such pleasure be in things to us forbidden, it might be wished, for this one tree had been forbidden 10. Oh. But come, so well refreshed, now let us play, as meet is after such delicious fare. For never did thy beauty, since the day I saw thee first and wedded thee, adorned with all perfections, so enflame my sense with ardour to enjoy thee. Fairer now than ever, bounty of this virtuous tree.
Her hand he seized, and to a shady bank, thick overhead with verdant roof embowered, he led her, nothing loth. Flowers were the couch, pansies and violets and asphodel and hyacinth, earth's freshest, softest lamp. There they their fill of love and love's disport, till dewy sleep oppressed them, wearied with their amorous play.
Soon as the force of that fallacious fruit, that with exhilarating vapour bland about their spirits had played, and inmost powers made err, was now exhaled, and grosser sleep bred of unkindly fumes, with conscious dreams encumbered, now had left them, up they rose, as from unrest, and each the other viewing, soon found their eyes how opened, and their minds how darkened. Innocence, that as a veil had shadowed them from knowing ill, was gone.
They, destitute and bare of all their virtue, silent and in face confounded, long they sat, as struck and mute, till Adam, though not less than Eve abashed, at length gave utterance to these words constrained.
O Eve, in evil hour thou didst give ear to that false worm, whomsoever taught to counterfeit man's voice, true in our fall, false in our promised rising. Since our eyes opened we find indeed, and find we know both good and evil, good lost, and evil got, bad fruit of knowledge, if this be to know, which leaves us naked thus, of honour void. How shall I behold the face henceforth of God or angel? Oh, might I here in solitude live, savage, in some glade obscured, where highest woods, impenetrable to star or sunlight, spread their umbrage broad and brown as evening. Cover me, ye pines, ye cedars, with innumerable boughs hide me, where I may never see them more. But let us now, as in bad plight, devise what best may for the present serve to hide the parts of each from other, that seem most to shame obnoxious and unseemliest seen. Some tree whose broad smooth leaves together sewed and girded on our loins may cover round those middle parts, that this newcomer, shame, there sit not, and reproach us as unclean.
So counselled he, and both together went into the thickest wood. There soon they chose the fig tree. Those leaves they gathered, broad as Amazonian targe, and with what skill they had, together sewed to gird their waist. Vain covering, if to hide their guilt and dreaded shame. Oh, how unlike to that first, naked glory. They sat them down to weep. Not only tears rained at their eyes, but high winds worse within began to rise, high passions, anger, hate, mistrust, suspicion, discord, and shook sore their inward state of mind, calm region once and full of peace, now tossed and turbulent.
Would thou hadst hearkened to my words and stayed with me as I besought thee when that strange desire of wandering this unhappy morn. I know not whence possessed thee. We had then remained still happy, not as now, despoiled of all our good, shamed, naked, miserable.
Words have passed thy lips, Adam severe. Imputes thou that to my default, or will of wandering, as thou call'st it, which who knows but might as ill have happened thou being by? Or to thyself, perhaps, hadst thou been there? Or hear the attempt, thou couldst not have discerned fraud in the serpent, speaking as he spake. No ground of enmity between us known, why he should mean me ill or seek to harm. Was I to have never parted from thy side? As could have grown there still a lifeless rib, being as I am. Why didst not thou, the head, command me absolutely not to go, going into such danger as thou saidst? Too facile, then, thou didst not much gainsay. Nay, didst permit, approve, and fair dismiss. Hadst thou been firm and fixed in thy dissent, neither had I transgressed, nor thou with me.
Is this the love? Is this the recompense of mine to thee, ingrateful Eve? Expressed immutable when thou were lost, not I, who might have lived and joyed immortal bliss, yet willingly chose rather death with thee. And am I now upbraided? As the cause of thy transgressing, not enough severe, it seems, in thy restraint, what could I more? I warned thee, I admonished thee, foretold the danger and the lurking enemy that lay in wait. Beyond this had been force, and force upon free will hath here no place.
Thus they in mutual accusation spent the fruitless hours, but neither self-condemning, and of their vain contest appeared no end.
I barely slept last night. My sleep was cursed by your words, John.
My words?
Thus they in mutual accusation spent the fruitless hours, and of their vain contest appeared no end.
Spent the fruitless hours, but neither self-condemning. Yes, is it not true?
I know it in my heart. All that our parents squandered in that moment, we still suffer, and our world tears itself apart. Brother against brother.
We must pick up the thread from yesterday. Where were we?
Should we not act, John? Is God not calling us to act to heal this broken land?
This is an act, Elizabeth. These words. And I am called to make them.
Christ is sent by his Father in heaven down to the garden to judge our ancient parents.
Yes, but what was the line on your page?
Now was the sun in western cadence low from noon, and gentle airs due at their hour to fan the earth now waked and usher in the evening cool, when he from wrath more cool came the mild judge and intercessor both to sentence man.
The voice of God they heard, now walking in the garden, by soft winds brought to their ears, while day declined, they heard, and from his presence hid themselves among the thickest trees, both man and wife, till God, approaching, thus to Adam called aloud.
Where art thou, Adam?
They heard, and from his presence hid themselves among the thickest trees.
Where art thou, Adam? Come forth.
He came, and with him Eve, more loath, though first to offend, discountenanced both and discomposed. Love was not in their looks, either to God or to each other, but apparent guilt and shame, and perturbation and despair, anger and obstinacy and hate and guile.
I heard thee in the garden, and of thy voice, afraid, being naked, hid myself.
My voice thou oft hast heard, and hast not feared, but still rejoiced. How is it now become so dreadful to thee, that thou art naked? Who hath told thee? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I gave thee charge thou shouldst not eat?
The serpent me beguiled, and I did eat.
Which when the Lord God heard, without delay to judgment he proceeded on the accused serpent.
Because thou hast done this, thou art accursed above all cattle, each beast of the field. Upon thy belly grovelling thou shalt go, and dust shall eat all the days of thy life. Between thee and the woman I will put enmity, and between thine and her seed. Her seed shall bruise thy head, thou bruise his heel.
And to the woman thus his sentence turned.
Thy sorrow I will greatly multiply by thy conception. Children thou shalt bring in sorrow forth. And to thy husband's will thine shall submit. He over thee shall rule.
On Adam last, thus judgment he pronounced.
Cursed is the ground for thy sake. Thou in sorrow shalt eat thereof all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles it shall bring thee forth unbid. And thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground. For thou out of the ground wast taken. Know thy birth. For dust thou art, and shalt to dust return.
So judged he man, both judge and Saviour sent.
O Christ, have mercy on us all.
And so the beloved Son and Judge returned to the bosom of his Father, and I to the bowels of hell to hear my praises sung. But at those gates my monstrous daughter, mother of my son, was waiting with her mutant boy. Yes, death and sin had built, in honor of my triumph, a highway between earth and hell.
O parent, these are thy magnific deeds, thy trophies, which thou viewest as not thine own. Thou art their author and prime architect. For I no sooner in my heart divined my heart, which by a secret harmony still moves with thine, joined in connection sweet, that thou on earth hadst prospered, which thy looks now also evidence. But straight I felt, though distant from thee worlds between, yet felt that I must after thee with this thy son. Such fatal consequence unites us three. Hell could no longer hold us in her bounds, nor this unvoyageable gulf obscure detain from following thy illustrious track. Thou hast achieved our liberty. Confined within hell gates till now, thou us empowered to fortify thus far, and overlay with this portentous bridge the dark abyss.
Fair daughter, and thou, son and grandchild both, while I descend through darkness, on your road with ease right down to paradise descend, there dwell and reign in bliss, thence on the earth dominion exercise, and in the air chiefly on man, sole lord of all declared, him first make sure your thrall, and lastly kill.
So saying, he dismissed them. They with speed their course through thickest constellations held, spreading their bane. The blasted stars looked one, and planets struck real eclipse, then suffered. The other way Satan went down the causeway to Hell Gate.
To make my victory speech.
And with these words, attention won.
Thrones, dominations, princedoms, virtues, powers, for in possession such not only of right I call ye and declare ye now, returned, successful, beyond hope, to lead ye forth triumphant out of this infernal pit. I found the new created world which fame in heaven long had foretold, a fabric wonderful, of absolute perfection, therein man placed in a paradise by our exile made happy. Him by fraud I have seduced from his creator, and the more to increase your wonder, with an apple. He thereat, offended, worth your laughter, hath given up both his beloved man and all his world to sin and death a prey, and so to us, without our hazard, labour, or alarm, to range in and to dwell, and over man to rule, as over all he should have ruled. True is, me also he hath judged, or rather me not, but the brute serpent, in whose shape man I deceived. That which to me belongs is enmity, which he will put between me and mankind. I am to bruise his heel, his seed, when is not set, shall bruise my head. A world who would not purchase with a bruise, or much more grievous pain. Ye have the account of my performance. What remains, ye gods? But up and enter now into full bliss.
So having said, a while he stood expecting their universal shout and high applause to fill his ear, when contrary he hears on all sides from innumerable tongues a dismal universal hiss, the sound of public scorn. He wondered, but not long had leisure, wondering at himself now more. His visage drawn, he felt, too sharp and spare. His arms clung to his ribs, his legs entwining each other, till supplanted down he fell, a monstrous serpent on his belly prone. Reluctant, but in vain, a greater power now ruled him. Punished in the shape he sinned according to his doom. He would have spoke, but hiss for hiss returned with forked tongue to forked tongue, for now were all transformed alike to serpents all as accessories to his bold riot. Dreadful was the din of hissing through the hall, thick swarming now with complicated monsters, head and tail, a crowd of ugly serpents.
There is justice.
While the Creator, calling forth by name his mighty angels, gave them several charge, as sorted best with pleasant things. The sun had first his precept so to move, so shine as might affect the earth with cold and heat scarce tolerable, and from the north to call decrepit winter, from the south to bring solstitial summer's heat. Beast now with beast gan war, and fowl with fowl, and fish with fish. To graze the herb all leaving, devoured each other, nor stood much in awe of man, but fled him, or with countenance grim glared on him, passing. These were from without the growing miseries which Adam saw already in part, though hid in gloomiest shade, to sorrow abandoned, but worse felt within, and in a troubled sea of passion tossed, thus to disburden sought, with sad complaint.
Oh, fleeting joys of paradise, dear bought with lasting woes. Did I request thee, Maker, from my clay to mould me man? Did I solicit thee from darkness to promote me, or here place in this delicious garden? In me all posterity stands cursed. Fair patrimony that I must leave ye sons. Oh, Were I able to waste it all myself and leave ye none, so disinherited, how would ye bless me now your curse? Ah, why should all mankind for one man's fault thus guiltless be condemned, if guiltless? But from me, what can proceed but all corrupt, both mind and will depraved? Not to do only, but to will the same with me. How can they, acquitted, stand in sight of God? Thus, what thou desirest and what thou fearest alike destroys all hope of refuge, and concludes thee miserable. O conscience, into what abyss of fears and horrors hast thou driven me, out of which I find no way, from deep to deeper plunged.
Thus Adam to himself lamented loud through the still night. Not now, as ere man fell, wholesome and cool and mild, but with black air accompanied with damps and dreadful gloom, which to his evil conscience represented all things with double terror. On the ground, outstretched he lay on the cold ground, and oft cursed his creation. Death as oft accused of tardy execution, since denounced the day of his offence.
Adam, Adam.
Out of my sight, thou serpent.
Forsake me not thus, Adam. Witness heaven what love sincere and reverence in my heart I bear thee, and unwitting have offended, unhappily deceived.
But for thee I had persisted happy. Had not thy pride and wandering vanity, when least was safe, rejected my forewarning?
I beg and clasp thy knees, bereave me not. Whereon I live, thy gentle looks, thy aid, thy counsel, in this uttermost distress, my only strength and stay, forlorn of thee. Whither shall I betake me? Where subsist?
Oh, why did God not fill the world at once with men as angels without feminine? Or find some other way to generate mankind?
While yet we live, scarce one short hour, perhaps, between us two, let there be peace, both joining, as joined in injuries, one enmity against a foe by doom express assigned us, that cruel serpent. On me exercise not thy hatred for this misery befallen, on me already lost, me, then thyself more miserable. Both have sinned, but thou against God only, I against God and thee. And to the place of judgment will return, there with my cries importune heaven, that all the sentence from thy head removed may light on me, sole cause to thee of all this woe. Me only, just object of his ire. Oh, Adam!
Soon his heart relented towards her, his life so late and sole delight, now at his feet submissive in distress. Creature so fair, his reconcilement seeking, his counsel, whom she had displeased, his aid, as one disarmed, his anger all he lost, and thus with peaceful words upraised her soon.
Rise. Let us no more contend, nor blame each other, blamed enough elsewhere, but strive in offices of love, how we may lighten each other's burden in our share of woe.
So spake our father penitent, nor Eve felt less remorse. They forthwith to the place repairing where he judged them, prostrate fell before him, reverent, and both confessed humbly their faults, and pardon begged with tears watering the ground, and with their sighs the air frequenting, sent from hearts contrite, in sign of sorrow unfeigned, and humiliation meek.
Is that it? Our poor parents left in abject prayer?
No, their Maker must now carry out his word.
O sons, like one of us, man is become to know both good and evil. He sorrows now, repents and prays contrite. My motions in him longer than they move. His heart, I know, how variable and vain self-left. Lest therefore his now bolder hand reach also of the tree of life, and eat and live forever, dream at least to live forever, to remove him, I decree, and send him from the garden forth to till the ground whence he was taken, fitter soil. From the paradise of God, without remorse, drive out the sinful pair, from hallowed ground the unholy, and denounce to them and to their progeny from thence perpetual banishment.
Pity the angel sent to banish them.
Michael, it was his burden to bear, but not entire despair. He brings them also news of Christ's redemption.
This godlike act annuls thy doom, the death thou shouldst have died, in sin forever lost from life. This act shall bruise the head of Satan, crush his strength, defeating sin and death, his two main arms.
So spake the Archangel Michael, then paused, as at the world's great period, and our sire, replete with joy and wonder, thus replied.
Oh, goodness infinite, goodness immense, that all this good of evil shall produce, and evil turn to good, more wonderful than that by which creation first brought forth light out of darkness.
In either hand the hastening angel caught our lingering parents, and to the eastern gate led them direct, and down the cliff as fast to the subjected plain, then disappeared. They, looking back, all the eastern side beheld of paradise, so late their happy seat, waved over by that flaming brand, the gate with dreadful faces thronged and fiery arms. Some natural tears they dropped, but wiped them soon. The world was all before them, where to choose their place of rest, and Providence their guide. They hand in hand with wandering steps and slow, through Eden took their solitary way.
Milton was played by Ian McKellen, Elizabeth by Francis Barber, and Satan was Simon Russell Beale. Adam was Ashley Margolis, and Eve, Emily Peaton. God was played by Russell Dixon, Christ by David Seddon, and Michael was Jonathan Keeble. Part 2 of Paradise Lost by John Milton was dramatised for radio by Michael Simmons Roberts and produced in Salford by Susan Roberts.